The arrest today of Governor Blagojevich has raised many, many questions, in particular, in addition to how we run the state. It's what happens to the Senate appointment to replace President-elect Barack Obama. This is a very difficult situation because, unbelievably, U.S. Attorney in Chicago Patrick Fitzgerald talked as if this was very disgusting and almost unprecedented for Governor Blagojevich to talk like this, but to basically try to sell the seat to the Senate, as it is alleged Governor Blagojevich did, to try to get money or a job or jobs or positions for his wife in exchange for naming someone to a U.S. Senate seat, made the U.S. Attorney act quickly and now puts in limbo the whole process of what happens to that Senate seat, because under Illinois law, the governor has the sole responsibility to name the replacement to a vacancy in the Senate. So what happens now? Well, Jim Durkin, who is a state representative and was actually John McCain's top guy in Illinois, said that the law should be changed right away in Springfield so that the Senate would have to confirm any choice. Senator Durbin, who actually Durkin ran against a few years back, 6 years ago, but Senator Durbin, Dick Durbin of Springfield, said in Washington that he thinks a special election should be scheduled, and Emil Jones, who is still president of the Senate, even though he's retiring, has said he'll bring the Senate back into session to try to get that done. There is a question of timing, if a special election can be set quickly enough. If legislation is passed to do that and the governor still is in power, even though he is now charged by the federal government with wrongdoing, unless he removes himself, he's apparently still governor unless he gets convicted and removed by a judge or by some process or impeached. So he could veto such action, and then he could take a long time to veto it because he has 60 days to act on a bill. So with Governor Blagojevich, you kind of never know what you've got, and this Senate seat with a new administration coming in Washington and Illinois down one senator out of two remains in limbo. So we'll have to see where that goes. There is certainly talk of impeachment. There are many calls for the governor to resign. My reading of Governor Blagojevich, having covered him for 6 years and knowing him a little bit before when he was in the Illinois House and then in Congress, is that he's not the type to resign until forced to do so. I don't think today's activities in his mind will force him to do so. Given the allegations that were in the 76-page information put out by the U.S. Attorney's Office, it's really difficult to figure out what the governor is sometimes thinking, because he has been under intense scrutiny with many investigations for so long, and for him to have these conversations in places that a reasonable person might have thought could be susceptible to bugging by the feds, as they were on his home phone and in his campaign headquarters, for him to be talking about doing these deals, getting money from contractors, getting money or jobs in exchange for a Senate seat. Again, they're allegations, but his voice is on tapes apparently that say these things, or certainly indicate these things, is kind of unbelievable. But I think people in Springfield who have watched this governor realize that a lot about him is unbelievable. He came in as a reformer, and immediately he started creating a certain kind of gridlock with the legislature and seemingly going back on some commitments that he made that made people wonder, when is he saying something that he'll stick to? The only thing he's really stuck to in 6 years is he won't raise the income tax or sales tax, but he has swept funds, he has broken promises. Our own state senator in Springfield, Larry Bomke, made a deal with him to vote on bringing $10 billion to the pension funds, that we wouldn't lay off state employees and we would open a facility that had been closed, a state facility in Lincoln. And guess what? State facility still is. Bomke voted with the governor. Employees have been laid off continually, or at least on and off as crises occur. And the developmental center in Lincoln is still closed, even though some new buildings were built. So people in general don't trust him, and now the floodgates are open on what people are saying about him with all of these calls for resignation. Everybody talks about shoeboxes, or actually the shoebox and some other valises that Paul Powell, a Secretary of State who died in 1970, had with, I think it was $70,000 in them in his office and in his room at a hotel in Springfield. Nobody knew where he got that money. To this day, people don't know. That's a biggie. Other governors in office or out of office, have gone to prison. I do think that the brazenness of the tape recordings in this case make this rather unique because it's very clear, at least in the government's view, what the conspiracy was. It's about replacing Barack Obama, who is an iconic figure now in national politics, about replacing his seat in the Senate, and the governor, Blagojevich, appears to be using that as if it were, I think he called it golden at one point. He said it could create a parachute for him. The fact that Obama has the attention of the world and has had it for months and has made history himself by being from Illinois, being the first African-American elected president, and then to have the governor of his home state try to deal to get himself a job or an ambassadorship or positions on corporate boards for his wife or the leadership of a federal agency, Health and Human Services, for goodness sake, because Blagojevich has been for health care, or alternatively to get a lot of money for his campaign, which has been used extensively just to defend him against allegations of wrongdoing already, where he's spent probably $2 million with a law firm in Chicago, is just amazing, puts it on a world stage, and I think everybody thought 6 years ago when Rod Blagojevich became governor, he's very charismatic, he's a good talker. So when he talks about his family and how hard they worked to get him and his brother through school, he connected with audiences. He wanted to be famous. People thought he might be what Barack Obama became. He's now famous, but in such a different way, and it really is a shame.